never in a million years did I imagine not being a Cowboy once I put on this uniform and put on this star. This is my home. I'm not leaving. I'm a Cowboy. This is only the beginning.
Hump Day! What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for being with us. Hi, Max.
Molly.
Looking dapper as always. Stephen A. Smith out there. Taping episodes of Blackish. How'd that go? I didn't even get to ask you.
Good morning, Molly. How are you? Zoolander, what's going on, bro? What's going on, Zoolander? What's going on?
That's right. That's right. What do you hit you with, blue steel? What do you call it?
You remember with the blue steel, Molly and Max? You remember when Will Ferrell looked at Ben Stiller? It's the same look. That's Max with the black suit, white shirt.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment.
I make that facial expression in the mirror every day. All right, guys. So, first episode of Hard Knocks, the Dallas Cowboys. Anyone? The episode began with their star quarterback who went through the ringer the last couple of years, to say the least. First, he dealt with the tragic death of his older brother. That was last April. Then the injury of his left ankle 6 months later, sidelining him for the season. Now the shoulder. He talks about scars. It's clear he's talking about more than just the physical, gentlemen, but in resilient fashion, he remains hopeful for brighter days ahead and controlling the narrative on the gridiron. We also saw a very emotional and raw Jerry Jones. Southern Steve, what are your thoughts? Do you think this is the right team to be on Hard Knocks?
I don't think they deserve it. I mean, I've been on the record saying that. I mean, let's just call it what it is, okay? I mean, listen, they're off a 6-10 season. Their record was 8-8 before then because they have a marketing genius and an owner, Jerry Jones. That's why they're here. I mean, did you see Hard Knocks last night? I watched it. Because obviously they're America's team, right? They've got the star on their helmet, right? They've got guys with pom-poms. Guys, not just ladies. Guys with pom-poms all over the place. Blue and white pom-poms talking about the Dallas Cowboys. So let's look at the storyline. Now, mind you, let's keep this in mind. Not a single game has been played in the regular season. They played the Hall of Fame game, the preseason. Already we had Dak, and he's coming off the nasty leg injury. We wish him nothing but the best. We're really happy to see him out there, healthy enough to be running and playing football and stuff like that. But then he has to take a break because the shoulder, it's hurting right now, okay? And we need rest, okay? Because something's not right, all right? So we got that going on. We got Jerry Jones with the headlines. All right, he's going to show up to the Hall of Fame because the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing, and he's showing up to the Hall of Fame. And what does he do? He sits next to Jimmy Johnson, who's about to go into the Hall of Fame in just a couple of days.
What is it in the Ring of Honor?
At the time. And he's like, We're gonna put you in the ring of the Cowboys Ring of Honor. I mean, that's breaking news. Okay? So we got to make sure that we got the headlines for that. All right? Because, I mean, my God. This is just the Hall of Fame you're going into. The real news is that you're going to be in the Ring of Honor. That's what we're going to do. So the man stopped coaching your team in 1993. And 28 years later, you announce he going to be in the Ring of Honor. We're so touched.
And when, by the way? When's he going into the Ring of Honor? Can we get a date on that?
Exactly. Even Jimmy Johnson said, is this going to happen when I'm alive? Even he said that.
Just laughed.
Even he said that. And then suddenly we see nice guy, Dan Quinn, by all accounts a nice guy, but he on the air last night cussing like a sailor. Even I was sitting there going like this. I mean, it sounded a bit corny, but even I was saying, my God, the language. I mean, could they calm down here? I mean, him and the other coordinator, everybody cussing up a storm, dropping F-bombs all over the place. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's going on. So again, here we are. Because obviously we're First Take and we have to talk about these things. And once again, they're relevant in the world of headlines. And all that says to me is that I see just crumbs of evidence as to why this team is going to find themselves losing again. The one positive is that brother Micah Parsons. I'm a fan of that brother. That brother is all over the place.
Sideline to sideline. He's not playing games.
You know what, Vander Esch said up there and going to lean on back. Oh, man, you trying to make every play. I'm like this. Damn it, that's what you're supposed to be playing
That's
like
right.
Van Der Esch.
is
If
like,
you can stay healthy enough.
Van Der Esch is like, that's not how we do it around here.
Yeah,
What are you
that's not
doing?
how we do it
You're
around
making us look bad.
I mean, just stop the presses. It's the Dallas Cowboys. We bow at their altar when it comes to headlines. We bow at their altar when it comes to topics in the world of sports. We bow at their altar about everything except winning when it counts. I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised.
Before you jump in, can I say one thing? Because you mentioned cursing. You guys have heard me once in a while. I let one slip, and I want to completely stop. So you guys need to catch me. I'm giving it up entirely. No cursing at all whatsoever. I am. It is not ladylike. So if you hear anything from me, commercial breaks, I'm dropping things, you need to catch me and say, Molly, you gave that up. We'll
be talking to you about that for years. You ain't gonna stop.
No, I am.
You ain't gonna stop. I know I'm not. Off the air, I'm not. I mean, that's I don't cuss all the time.
You know why?
I hope off the air.
The one reason that Cowboys haters should be nervous, although it hasn't happened yet, because Jimmy Johnson said, wait, while I'm alive, is the real jinx, the curse, the hex on the Cowboys is the jinx of the curse of Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
They haven't won. I mean, they won with Barry Switzer with Jimmy Johnson's team, but not since then. It's been, what is it now? Where are we going on, Stephen A? A quarter century? Quarter century, no Super Bowl.
Yes. It's 26 years.
So over now. Over a quarter century. I didn't major in math, but according to my calculations, that's over a quarter century.
That's a year
no
over
Super Bowl.
a quarter century, yes.
And I'm a little nervous only because once Jimmy Johnson goes in the Ring of Honor, I'm like, wait, is the curse broken? Stephen A., everything that you pointed out is why the Cowboys were the right choice for this. Hard Knocks isn't about necessarily a team on the brink of a Super Bowl. It's just drama. You just want to see the drama of camp. Think about what you just said. First, we saw, it's not that it's new video. We've seen it already, but Jerry Jones crying in camp, right? He's so choked with emotion. And why would that be? Look, Jerry Jones could outlive us all. You're not promised tomorrow no matter how old or young you are. But Stephen A., he's no spring chicken. Is part of that emotion because he wants to know, is he going to live to see a Super Bowl championship with the Dallas Cowboys? Another one? Is he going to even live to see it? And by the way, when he's sprinkling salt on that McGriddle or whatever that was that a cheeseburger or a sausage, egg, and cheese? He opened it up, Stephen A. This dude opened up the sandwich to put salt on a McGriddle. I'm like, Jerry, what are you doing? It's not like you guys are knocking on the door of a championship right now. But those moments and all the stuff we saw, including stuff like Zeke and Dak seem to actually be like best friends. You know, like all
that was interesting.
It was interesting. There was drama with Dak's shoulder. In fact, if anything, I think Hard Knocks could have done a better job amplifying that. It almost went under the radar because there you had Mike McCarthy upset that his reps were too high in practice. Remember the number 575, whatever that related to? Too many throws, too much work. You see Dak champing at the bit. No, forget that. I've waited too long. I want to get back in there. Coach trying to calm him down. And then what happens? He hurts. He re-injures himself. Like that. If anything, Hard Knocks could have amplified that drama more. But there was drama. And Stephen A., this is the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, that was the right team.
Okay. I mean, you know. I mean, it's August. You know, the preseason is beginning this week. All right, y'all. All right, you got me. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they are the most interesting. And by the way, let me be very, very clear to remind the audience, I don't have nothing against the Cowboys. It's those nauseating fans that get on my damn nerves. I just can't imagine having to absorb how about them Cowboys. And then I look at their schedule because I got the schedule in front of me, Max Kellerman. And then I get even more annoyed. All right, the schedule has been extended to 17 games instead of 16 games. And, you know, they open the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady and those boys going to give it to them. You wait and see. But then after that, we got the Chargers. We got the Eagles, who are expected to stink this year. We got the Carolina Panthers, a rebuild. Let's call it what it is. the Giants. Let's not act like. Come on, y'all. Just stop it. Just stop it.
Saquon's running wild on them Cowboys.
Just stop it. And then after that, New England, even though they're formidable, we understand that. I mean, again, Cam is your quarterback. I got to see it to believe it. You know that. And then the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, whatever. Denver, Atlanta. I mean, I'm just looking at this schedule right here. I mean, damn, the Dallas Cowboys can end up winning about 14 games, for crying out loud. So I'm going to hear the mouths of Cowboy fans everywhere. Now, so we understand, the football scheduling gods looked out for them a little bit, because I find their schedule to be relatively soft, to be quite honest with you, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's that arduous. In the end, what it comes down to is this. When you look at Hard Knocks, you HBO, you want ratings. The Cowboys are going to give you that. But listen to how pathetic we are. Listen to what y'all just said. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, they seem like friends. Well, what the hell are they supposed to be? I mean, if you're Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, why wouldn't you be friends?
Best friends, not just friends. We said best friends. Stephen A., I want to go over that schedule for a second.
Stop, Max. It's the headline. They're best friends.
That's right.
I mean, Max, it's so touching. So the quarterback that has the running back that usually is rushing for over 1,200 yards, usually is carrying the ball 300 plus times. I mean, that guy, the quarterback is tight with. Wow. I mean, stop the presses. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Now,
how in God's name has this happened? A quarterback and their running back really get along. I mean,
since they were drafted.
Really?
Since they were drafted, they came in together. I even thought it was interesting, and they could have blown it up more, how when they were drafted, Ezekiel Elliott was the big deal. Dak was a fourth rounder. And now it's flipped. But I'll say this about Zeke. Even the fact that you heard Mike McCarthy talking with Stephen Jones, like how much better shape Zeke was in. And then you consider the lines coming back. I want to talk about what you said about the schedule, Stephen A. That is instructive. And it's not instructive because I think the Cowboys are going to win 14 games. The schedule is not very tough. And yet, I heard some losses in there. I wasn't sure how many they win, and that tells you what you really think about a team. Their strength of schedule tells you what you really think about them, because no matter who those teams are, if you don't really believe the team is that good, you're like, oh, that might be a tough game. That might be a tough game. If you think they're great, I don't think the Cowboys are great. When you started going through those teams, I think at Tampa, that's a loss. You talk about the Chargers, you're like, the Chargers should be much better this year. I don't know the Cowboys win that game. The Eagles are a mess, right? But that's an NFC East rival. We all know what happens in the NFC East. No matter how good one team is and how bad one team is, they seem to play in close games. Panthers ought to be a win. The Giants, another NFC East team, I think is going to be better than the Cowboys this year. The Vikings are solid. Like, when you go through that schedule, you're right. It is a soft schedule. Yeah. And yet I heard losses in there, which tells me, at least to me, and I suspect to more people than they realize, we don't think the Cowboys are that great.
Stephen A., I want to go back to the point that you just said that you think they're going to win 14 games, because we can't just slide by that.
I don't mean that literally, Molly. I'm just saying they're going to have there's a few cupcake components in this schedule here, and it's conceivable they could. I don't know. I'm thinking more along the lines of 11 and 12 as opposed to 14, but there's a lot. This is not a strong schedule, is what I'm saying.
No. That's
I'm thinking like 9 wins.
But where I wanted to go with that is, how many playoff games do you think they're going to win?
Maybe one. Oh, they're gonna fall. Make no mistake about that. They're not going to win. I mean, they're gonna fall. But
Molly, do you understand? He needs them to win 14 games so they can fall.
I just set myself up by
But I
gotta
tell you, it's like, listen, if it wasn't for their fan base, I wouldn't even be rooting against them. Listen, I like Dak Prescott. I like the fact that he got his money. I thought it was well-deserved, well-earned, and far too late on arrival. He deserved it sooner than he got it. Ezekiel Elliott, we know, is a stud. The brother can run with the football. You look at Amari Cooper and Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. We know these brothers can play. And I appreciate the fact that, listen, Dan Quinn, the way he was talking reminded me of that former defensive coordinator in Seattle rather than the head coach in Atlanta. You understand? So I expect their defense, which couldn't get much worse, to be significantly better.
Stephen A., before we get off the subject.
And I also see these brothers that are on the staff just sprinkled throughout the Cowboys roster. And I'm always going to root for African-American coaches, and I ain't apologizing for that to a damn soul. So all of those things are pluses for Jerry Jones, my buddy. My Libra buddy right there. You know how I feel about my man Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, by the way. But them damn fans are going to get on my nerves because I'm seeing stuff here that the Cowboys are going to be allowed to disguise their eventual ineptitude for a few more months, a few more weeks rather than I would prefer.
We're going to talk Dan Campbell a little later in the show, but here's another thing real quick. Mike McCarthy, with that mojo moment thing, didn't that feel forced to you? We're going to try and create mojo moments. How does he think the team is going to react to that? Did he get his mojo moments? He played them Austin Powers. He's trying to think out. It, to me, fell so flat and pointed out why I believe Mike McCarthy was the wrong coach for the job.
I just saw a lot of cussing. And even though I cuss from time to time, you understand what I'm saying, which my pastor gets on me about, with in all fairness, Pastor A.R. Bernard from Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York. I love that man dearly. I have tried to fix my mouth, sir. It is true. But here's the bottom line. I was looking at the Cowboys yesterday, and I was like this, man. They cussing a little bit too much, man, a little bit excessive.
It's like they
playing for the cameras. I said, so not only is Jerry the salesman, but you got a bunch of salesmen on your roster and on your coaching staff too. They just seem to be a little extra. You understand? Which is no surprise. Which is no surprise. That's who they are. We'll see what that ends up meaning in the end, Howard.
I've never cursed in my life. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
All I know is I'm about to Google Libra personality traits now that I know that Jerry Jones and Stephen A. are both Libras.
Right there.
What commonalities there?
Well, that's some analysis there, Molly.
He's going back to Cali full circle. Earlier this month, Russell Westbrook was traded to the LA Lakers. The 9-time All-Star has averaged a triple-double in the last 3 of 4 seasons and recently created history when he broke Oscar Robertson's record for most triple-doubles. Here is Russ yesterday.
I mean, honestly, this stuff happened so quickly. This happened so fast, last week or 2 weeks or so. But we've had brief conversations and talked about obviously what we need to do and how we need to do that. And we'll address that as training camp and as the season comes along, and we'll figure it out.
Russell, do you feel like you have anything to prove?
No, I don't. I've been blessed and thankful to be able to be in this league so long and lucky to be able to play and be healthy.
Max, start with you. Do you like Russ saying that he has nothing to prove?
No, I don't. I hate it, as a matter of fact. And I get it. Look, Russell Westbrook leaves it all on the floor every night. What else does he have to prove? But Russ, because you do that and because of your talents and gifts and your work that you've put in, you've elevated yourself to a position among the greats. And among the truly great players, we want to know who wins championships because it indicates that they're the best. Now, Russell Westbrook could bristle at that and say, no, that's about the team. But Russ, why is it that if anything, you sometimes do too much? Right? Because if your teammates can't do it, you just got to take it upon yourself. Because that's how competitive you are. You want to win. You need to win. Now, it's one thing if you were on a team where we look at the roster and go, all right, come on. And it's an imperfect roster. No roster's perfect. But you have, I really believe, maybe for the second time in Russell Westbrook's career, he has a legitimate championship squad around him. 2016, I thought that was a championship caliber roster. They didn't get it done. The Cavs did. The Warriors didn't. Neither did the Thunder. Okay. Now, for the second time in your career, Russ, you got a legit championship caliber squad around you. And so we want to know, how great are you? Can you be one of the central pieces that is so good that you guys win a championship? We're looking at you, not as a role player or whatever, but as a central figure in the nucleus of a potential championship team. Of course there's something to prove, because you don't have a championship yet.
Here's the deal. I don't disagree with you, Max. I just want to go a little bit deeper in all seriousness, because obviously Russell Westbrook and I have had some differences, and, I've addressed that. He's addressed it as well, and everything's cool. Here's the deal. He does have something to prove, first of all, that he can win a championship. Period. There's nothing else left to prove, just to win a championship. And I don't think he meant what he said when he said in the nation's capital a few months ago that championships don't mean nothing to him. he sees plenty of champions who are less happier than himself. I think what we have seen from Russell Westbrook is a guy whose level of sensitivity has been heightened in terms of people creating narratives about him and him sitting back and him no longer sitting back and just taking it. He's going to defend himself, and he's going to fend off those naysayers and some of the things that they may say, myself included, because he believes that anything that comes close to addressing or attacking his character is something that he needs to debunk. I respect that. So I want to sit up there and say on national television, there's no reason nor is there any excuse for us to question the character of Russell Westbrook. The brother gives us 100% every night. He goes out and goes all out every night, plays at 100 miles an hour. He never cheats the game in that regard at all, okay? And off the court, never gets in any kind of trouble whatsoever. He's a high character guy, all right? So I want to make sure that I'm clear with all of those things that I just said, because it's incredibly important that people understand. My point is...
Do we need a lower third for this, or is it too serious?
Say what?
Do we need the lower third about Russell Westbrook for this,
Nope.
or is this too serious?
Nope, we don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it at all. Not when it comes to him. Here's what I want him and all the people who love him and know him personally to understand. We are talking about the game of basketball, not his character, certainly not his character as a man, and the great things that he's accomplishing off the court. Max, I was driving down, I think it was somewhere in Burbank, whatever. I mean, Max, it was like a damn near a mile of stores, and all of them with dealerships in his name. The brother's doing big things. I mean, Russell Westbrook's doing big things, man. And there's a certain audience that he's trying to reach and uplift, and he's doing that too. And he does a lot of things in the community that people don't realize about, and he deserves credit for that. At the end of the day, we come back to basketball. And I'm going to stick to my point about this. When you are that great, as great as he is, I don't want to see you in Washington for a team that's squeezing into the playoffs. So that was 13 games under 500. Now, he can't help that. You want to get the hell out of Houston, you got to go where they sent you. And then ultimately you end up landing where you really, really wanted to land, which is back home here in L.A. wearing a Lakers uniform. Fair enough. But now that you're here and you're an L.A. native, and you started at UCLA, you know what time it is. You know what Laker Nation expects. You know it's about the chip. And you got to go for it. You don't get it, you don't get it. But you really, really, really got to go for it. That chip has to be the priority, more so than anything else. And in the end, when you look at Russell Westbrook, this is what the bottom line is going to be. He's going to the Hall of Fame. We're going to celebrate him one day as one of the greatest players we've ever seen, you know, when you look at what his resume entails. But Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, James Harden, then Victor Oladipo, Paul George, then James Harden again, Bradley Beal, and now LeBron James and Anthony Davis were all teammates of yours at one point in time in your career. It's not a good thing if all of those teammates are people that you had and you don't have one single championship to show for it.
No.
Period. You got to, that has to be the priority. And again, like when he says he has nothing to prove, no, he doesn't. As an individual performer, no, he doesn't. As a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame credentials, no, he doesn't with any of those things. It's just with one thing and one thing only. At some point in time, when you got those kind of teammates, you got to have at least one chip to show for it.
Let me just say, we're going to miss Russell Westbrook when he's gone.
Yes,
he's one of those guys we're going to, and for all the haters, you're only hurting yourself because you're missing the ride.
Exactly.
We're going to tell our grandkids that we saw Russell Westbrook. He's that kind of player. Mm-hmm. We want him to win a championship because, almost out of gratitude, most Westbrook fans, because I think fans want it for him more than anyone else. So that on top of all that other stuff, we'll tell our grandkids about him, we can say he was a champion, an NBA champion.
Max, when you say, last point, when you say we're going to miss him when he's gone, you're absolutely right. We're going to miss him when he's gone. But we're also missing him when he's going home in the first round. Because we see inferior players that are playing deeper into their seasons. Now, obviously, it might not be because of them. It might be because of the teammates they have. But I'm saying nobody expected much from you last year because you was in D.C., and we know they didn't have that kind of squad.
Yep.
This team,
Got LeBron and AD.
there
All
are
right, hard out here,
expectations
guys.
for these Lakers. Make no mistake about it.
No
and
question.
Everything
And
they
we'll
gave
have
away
more on Russ later.
was
We'll
worth
get
it.
into it. This is the third former MVP LeBron will have played with. Shaq and D Rose, the other two. Gentlemen, more hoops when we come back. Luka's wish may have come true when he got paid the Supermax this week. But as for next year, he's hoping for better team chemistry. We are reading the tea leaves, and Max has a trade suggestion that could really shake things up. That's next. And it's always a good time when my guy Paul Feinbaum joins the show. He'll be on to discuss the latest college football polls, and he has a surprise school that's ready to make waves this year.
Set, obviously, so is Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is available, Stephen A. And what's the issue with him? At first blush, you go, wait a minute. He needs the ball in his hands, and so does Luka. The issue is he can't shoot. That's the issue. Maybe people will question his work ethic in terms of working on his shot, but he can't shoot. He can do everything else at historically elite levels. He's one of the best defenders you ever want to see. Versatile, big, energetic, willing to play it, take on tough assignments, and he does it really, really well. He has the best handles at his size of all time. Show me another 6'10" guy who can handle like Ben Simmons, even 6'8", 6'9", right? This guy's handles are ridiculous. His court vision, his basketball IQ, everything except the shot. Well, the thing about the Mavericks is you don't need to shoot. You can have one player who gets who in the dunker spot, or Simmons can be off ball oftentimes. That's the whole criticism in the playoffs. You got to take the ball out of his hands. Yeah, it's in Luka's hands. But it's not like Simmons can't handle and make plays. The basketball IQ and ball movement on a team with Luka and Ben Simmons would be through the roof. Ben Simmons got warts. You want to point out what you don't like about him? That's why he's available. Otherwise, a dude entering his prime who does everything just about as well as you ever want to see anyone do it at his size wouldn't be available. So you got to accept the warts. But if they could swing a deal for Ben Simmons, you got Luka and Ben Simmons, oh my God. And who says that'll be the end of the star collecting in Dallas? But it's an excellent start.
I disagree. I don't like it at all. I'm not knocking Ben Simmons as an overall talent because I think he's a star in the making. I just think that he's, listen, he doesn't even have to get a perimeter shot. He's good for 23 a night if he could just hit free throws. Literally could just hit free throws. He's good for 23 a night. But when you look at him and Luka, I would remind you, Max, that when you think about Ben Simmons, he was absolutely horrific, shooting at about 30% from the free throw line. I think it was like 15 or 45 in the series in the 7-game series against the Atlanta Hawks in the semifinals. He shot, I don't know what his number was for the season, but it wasn't that impressive, like 61%, I believe, something like that. He can't hit free throws. That is a problem. And so because that's a problem, think about Dallas and how they're constructed. We simply don't know as of yet. But they're not rife with shot makers, okay? So that's problematic in and of itself. If you put Luka and Ben Simmons on there together, yes, Luka averaged 27 a game. I would remind you that Luka shot 73% from the free throw line. He shot 53% from the free throw line in the playoffs. 27 of 51 free throws. I mean, you got to imagine that they'll both improve to some degree. But in the end, if you're that kind of liability from the perimeter, because Luka isn't the greatest jump shooter in the world. He hits clutch shots, but he isn't the greatest jump shooter in the world. The fact is, him with Ben Simmons, to me, doesn't work. Ben Simmons has to be on a team where you have an abundance of perimeter shooters. That, to me, is the ideal place for him, because then he can just simply focus on his free throws. And other than that, playing the way that he plays in terms of ball handling, running an offense, creating plays for other people, etc., because he definitely is elite at creating open shots for other people because of his athleticism, his speed, his size, his ball handling skills, and his ability to get to the basket at will and finish at the basket for the most part. This is a guy that can create open shots for other people. If you surround him on a team, let's say like Portland with McCollum and Covington and all of these guys, that would be different. Because obviously, if you got Ben Simmons, you'd probably lose Damian Lillard. But if you had him on a team like that, if you had him on a team like Golden State, where Golden State, you got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, although they're a bit hesitant to bring him on board. They're a camp divided in Golden State, from what I'm hearing, Max, because they don't believe him and Draymond should be on the court at the same time. One
Probably
or the other, not both. But nevertheless, I think that Klay and Steph are such elite shooters and so elite at moving without the basketball, getting open to get shots. I think that you could still get away with it if you're the Golden State Warriors, because we don't give credit enough where credit is due to the basketball savant that Draymond Green is. This brother knows how to pass. He knows how to play. He's a highly intelligent basketball player, and he knows not just who to give it to, which most situations it's Klay, but when and how. And I've seen him giving passes while setting picks all at the same time. Draymond just knows what the hell he's doing. And so for me, I don't mind the thought of him and Ben Simmons being there together the way some people inside Golden State's organization may mind. But Ben Simmons has to be surrounded by at least a couple of perimeter shooters on the floor with him.
Let me tell you the evolution of
shooters.
Let me tell you the evolution of my thinking here. Remember, when I said Embiid and Simmons, it's not that they don't work together, but that you could maximize them if you separate them. My point was, I looked at Antetokounmpo. The Greek Freak and Ben Simmons were similar players early, but they built a team around the Greek Freak. They never did that around Simmons, exactly as you're describing. Put shooters all around him. Mm-hmm. You either double him or he's taking it to the rack. And if you do double him, he's going to find the open man. That's a way you can go far. I agree. Okay. And that's why I proposed the trade to Portland. I said Simmons, Matisse, maybe Maxey, a draft pick, Damian Lillard, right? I'm talking about from the Mavericks' point of view here. You need to get better. It's a league with big threes, not just two dudes, three dudes. You're like Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame. Dallas ain't going to do it with just Luka. And they're not even going to do it with Luka and one other dude if Brooklyn or LA is healthy. But you got to start with another special kind of player. So who's available? Ben Simmons is available. And those two basketball IQ passers at their size with everything they can do, everything you mentioned about them, the only thing really glaringly missing is Ben Simmons shooting. That's it. Otherwise, look out.
Yeah, but the problem with it, Max, is that you got to have somebody to pass it to. And the fact of the matter is, you look at Dallas's roster, that doesn't exist, number one. Number two, remember Porzingis in Dallas, the belief is that his relationship with Luka Doncic is the biggest problem. Sure. Just as big of a problem as his durability. We keep forgetting Porzingis was healthy against the Clippers. He did play in that series, okay? But somehow, some way, it just didn't mesh. Now you come to Philadelphia and you think about Ben Simmons. Well, if you listen to the scuttlebutt that's circulating around the NBA over the last week or so, Max, you're hearing that Ben Simmons may not want to come back to Philadelphia. That he's hearing that the Philadelphia 76ers, although their asking price was pretty steep, was busy entertaining an abundance of trade offers for him, and as a result, he doesn't want to go there, and who knows whether or not he may show up to training camp. I haven't spoken to the Philadelphia 76ers to confirm that, but those are the kind of things that you're hearing over the last week. So my point is that the same kind of problems that you may fear or that you already have realized with Porzingis, you may fear ultimately with Ben Simmons, and those are things to take into consideration as well.
You got to do your due diligence there and see if it will work. You got to talk to the guys and everything. But I think it was Jordan Schultz's idea on this show when he floated the idea during the draft. And at first I was skeptical. The more I thought about it, the more I liked it for Dallas. I want to say one thing real quick. I was digging into Philadelphia 76ers Twitter, right? I was looking, what do the fans have to say? And one fan brought up, I found the numbers. I forgot his name. I apologize. But brought up Ben Simmons plus minus in the 4 losses to Atlanta, right? When he was on the floor, the 76ers in the 4 losses to Atlanta were over +4. So they were winning by at least 4 points. When he was off the floor, they were minus 32 and change. So as bad a rap as he got because he doesn't shoot it at all, he can't shoot free throws, he is so good in every other area, he was still a net plus in those 4 losses.
I think he's a star. I think he's a star in the making. He hits free throws. He's a star. Free throws. He's a star.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got almost everything.
And a little floater would be nice from 8 to 12.
I got a number for you. Luka averaged 35 in the playoffs. Okay.
10 and 8. 35, 10 and 8.
Bama, no big surprise. Numero uno in the coaches poll. Paul Feinbaum, my guy, joining the show to break down why they're Feinbaum. Good morning, Paul.
Molly, it's great to be back. It's so good to see all of you.
Yeah.
Long time,
Likewise.
Paul. Long time.
Likewise. Paul, you know where we're starting. Alabama, atop again. You heard me, 63 of the 65 coaches. Tell me this, though. What makes this team different than years past?
Well, it's younger, and that's a real concern if you want to find things to get upset about. I mean, everyone watched the draft and saw Mac Jones leaving, the quarterback, and Najee Harris, the running back, and the 2 great wide receivers, Devontae Smith and Waddle, and so many other players that are too many to mention. However, there is some good news. The defense at Alabama is going to be better than it's been probably in 5 or 6 years. The defense has been pedestrian the last couple of years. They really didn't need a great defense with Tua Tagovailoa and obviously Max Smith and all the compliments around the quarterback. So I think that's important. The question really is that quarterback, Bryce Young, he's already a millionaire according to his coach Nick Saban. But how will he do under pressure? We really don't know the answer to that. We'll find out in 3 weeks when they take on a pretty good Miami team. Not one of the top teams in the country, but certainly a top 10, top 15 team. So, but ultimately, we tend to look past all of that for a very simple reason. It's called Nick Saban. As long as he is the head coach and he recruits at the level that he has recruited, he had the best recruiting class in the country last year, we're going to keep putting him number 1.
You know, it's interesting, Paul, because a couple of years ago, my narrative, my take on it is, wait a minute, are we still in the Alabama Nick Saban era? Or is Dabo and Clemson,
right.
Who is it? Maybe it's Dabo. And now, once again, no, actually, it looks at this moment like Saban and Alabama have fought off the challenge and they're number 1. But Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, they round out the top 5. Among those teams, who represents the biggest threat?
I'll split it a little bit. I think Oklahoma has a really good shot at getting to the playoffs because the schedule is not that challenging, and they also have one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the country in Spencer Rattler. However, I think the biggest threat is in the SEC, and that is Georgia. I think after the first weekend of the season, Max, we're going to be talking about Georgia as a legitimate threat because I think they're going to beat Clemson, which I think is good, but maybe not as good as it has been in a couple of years. We all know Trevor Lawrence is gone. I don't think the defense is as elite. So if Georgia goes into that game at Bank of America Stadium and beats Clemson, then all of a sudden we'll be talking about the SEC championship game in December by the second week of September. So I think that's how it lies. I mean, Ohio State is good. They have as much talent as they've had in many, many years. There are other schools out there, but I really think, like we always talk about in mid-August, it's about 4 or 5 of the same schools that it's always been.
You know, Paul Feinbaum, I just want to remind you before I ask my next question, you've been talking a lot about Georgia for years now, and Kirby Smart and what Georgia was going to do and what Georgia's going to do. Hadn't happened yet. I'm sorry the protege can't overcome the mentor. You know me all day, every day. I'm rolling with Alabama. That's how I roll, Paul Feinbaum. And having said this, it's a 2-part question. One is really just being a bit facetious here because I really want to know, of the 65 coaches, with the poll that voted for number 1, 63 picked Alabama. I want to know the 2 who did it. I'd like to know that. Paul Feinbaum might know that bit of information. But more importantly and more seriously, I have to ask this question. We got Alabama, there's no Mac Jones. We got Ohio State, there's no Justin Fields. We got Clemson, there's no Trevor Lawrence. Are you concerned that any of those teams are being ranked a bit too high?
Listen, when we get to the polls, Stephen A., I think we're just looking to see what happened last year. This is not a lot of analysis from the coaches or the people in our profession. It's always the same. And I think you could make a very strong argument against Alabama. But we get hung up on the head coach, and we just assume, because he's been doing it better than anyone has ever done it, that he'll find a way. As far as Georgia is concerned, I hear you. It's only been 41 years since a national championship. Herschel Walker was a freshman. I know that's a name from the past, but I think, in all fairness to Kirby Smart, he's easy to take shots at. But he has a really great. He has a great program there because he recruits as well as anyone. So it will take a little bit of luck. He had double-digit leads against Alabama in the national championship game. Yes. I remember. I saw you there, Stephen A. Yes, you were on the Tide sideline, of course.
Nice and objective.
And then he had a double. He had a 17-point lead in the SEC game, and he just can't seem to get over that. He even led Alabama last year at halftime, and I didn't think anybody led Alabama last year that were so good. But that's just that's something he'll have to deal with, whether it's before Saban leaves, whenever that is, or not. But usually these things come down to one or two plays. I know you're a big Dabo fan. I know I've seen you kind of sneaking into town, talking to the team, trying to get them fired up. I mean, Max, this is what I love about Stephen A.
Benedict Arnold!
He goes
Benedict Arnold, look at him!
Hey, by the way, Stephen A., I don't know if you heard this or not, but in your spot last Friday night, speaking to the team, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it was Stephen A. Last year it was Mike Tyson. They snuck A-Rod in there in your place last Friday night. So I don't know if A-Rod can deliver like Stephen A. Because I still will say that they told me in Tuscaloosa the speech that Stephen A. gave to the team, best ever.
You know, what can I say? I mean, and listen, I love my man, Mike Tyson, who, by the way, has a great podcast. But you're going to have to forgive me, Max, if I don't think that he can talk like I can talk. Like,
Mike, he doesn't mean it. Mike, he doesn't mean it. I got you, Stephen A. Don't worry. Mike, turn off the TV. Don't worry about it. He doesn't mean it. Mike Tyson has an incredible. Mike Tyson is just one of the most interesting public figures in America right now. Listen, Paul, I want to ask you about something other than Alabama, although I suppose we could bring this one around to Alabama too. What's the future of college football with Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 and joining the SEC?
It is not good if you are not a member of the SEC, which currently sits at 14 and will go to 16 in 2 years or 3 years or whenever it is. Max, it sounds cliche to say this, but we are about to get in the NFL light. We're going to see 32, maybe 36 or 40 schools that compete every year for the national championship, and quite frankly, only about half of them are going to be contenders. A lot of conferences are literally falling by the wayside. This is like the Big Bang Theory, a million or a billion or a bazillion years ago in space. And I really don't know how to prop up these leagues. I mean, the Big 12 is saying we're fine. No, they're not. The Pac-12 is saying we don't need to do very much. Yes, they do. The ACC has to make a move, and the Big Ten, certainly of all the conferences, needs to do something. But the problem is there's nothing to do. There's almost no one left. Texas and Oklahoma, two of the biggest brands in college football, and you just can't manufacture a brand. Notre Dame's the only other school out there that is not currently in a conference that could make a difference. The rest of them are table scraps.
Listen, I'm just grateful that we're going to have college football, right? That's the exciting part.
You want football on Sundays or Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah.
I'll take both.
It was a year ago today, August 11th, at this very moment, when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 decided they weren't playing college football. It was one of the most amazing.
That's the goal right now, and that is the motivation right now. I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
This would definitely be a trio to be reckoned with.
LeBron James delivering AD Dynamite.
Westbrook, he just doesn't stop.
I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
Russell Westbrook once said a Spalding basketball was his only friend, but sounds like things have changed. Take a listen to what Russ said at his introductory press conference for the Purple and Gold.
AD and Bron are friends of mine first. And me being their teammate, my job is to come in and uplift them, and they do the same with me, vice versa. And as the season prolongs, we will figure it out. There will be ups, there will be downs, and that's normal. That's okay. But we will figure out how to play the best way that we want to play to be able to win a championship.
Russ, AD, LeBron. It's a pretty strong big three, if I do say so myself. But Max, is this the best big three that LeBron's played with?
The answer is yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I will tell you why. LeBron played, let's look at his big threes. LeBron played with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Tell me who among them, other than LeBron, was ever a thought as an MVP of the league. Kyrie has never been thought of that way. No one's ever made the case. You know who should win MVP of the league this year? Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love has never been thought of that way. Neither one. Between Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh on that big three, at that point in their careers, Wade was still a great player, but not as great as he once had been. Wade was not perceived by anyone, nor did anyone make the argument in those 4 years in Miami. You know, Dwayne Wade maybe is the MVP. No one even thought it. No one made the argument. And Chris Bosh is a great player, but also at no point in his career did someone look at Chris Bosh and say, 5-star player, meaning 4-star being an all-star, 5-star MVP. That didn't happen. However, this big three on the Lakers right now, LeBron's a multiple-time MVP, and when last seen healthy, I remember arguments a couple months ago, he's still the best player in basketball. He's the MVP of the league. AD, when healthy, absolutely performs at MVP level. And by the way, we saw it in the playoffs with LeBron. You could argue AD could have won Finals MVP, but he's had multiple seasons of double-digit rebounds and high 20 points and PERs among the greatest of all time. No one would argue that's an MVP caliber player. Now, Russell Westbrook. Is that the weak link here? Russell Westbrook? Russell Westbrook was a 30-point triple-double on average for the season. 30-point triple-double. Stephen A., he didn't start averaging 23 and 22 and 25 points because he couldn't still drop 32 points. He did it because he's actually a team player. Look, Paul George, I need to get him the ball more, whatever. The point totals dropped. And because he's on a different team every year with different teammates, first half of the season, he's figuring it out. We're all like, oh, look at that. Russell Westbrook's not as good as he used to be. But then he figures it out. And second half of the season, every single year we go, that dude's playing at MVP level. We said it this year, the year before, the year before that, the year before that. So yeah, LeBron James has never been on a team, ever, with even one other guy we look and go, that's an MVP caliber player. Now he's playing with two of those guys. And Stephen A., it's true even if they don't win the championship because they're playing in a league where another team has even more in the Brooklyn Nets.
You're wrong, number one. Number two, you have no clue what you're talking about. And the reason why you have no clue what you're talking about, Max, is very, very forgivable because your logic is deniable in this particular situation, Vicky, from iRobot. We know
I like
this.
Spock. I like Spock.
But Vicky was Spock too. Spock Kellerman works too. Either way,
I see what you're doing with the Vicky thing. I'm not crazy about it.
I understand that. Yeah, I got it. If it was a different name, that's fine. Vicky's, I respect that. Spock Kellerman. We'll use Spock Kellerman. But the reason why I say you're wrong, Max, is because you're looking at just numbers and you're not taking into account the moments, my brother. You're not taking into account the moments, the environment, the ambiance. Max, you have no idea. I don't care what you saw on TV. I don't care what you've done on TV to cover the Miami Heat in the LeBron James era. Was something special. I mean, I'm just getting a little bit emotional right now. Just hold on, let me compose myself with this. This is some special stuff, man. Max, not one, not two, not three, not four. We all would get that. We all get that with LeBron. LeBron, as you have publicly acknowledged, was in his prime with Miami.
Yes, he was.
He arrived there as a 26-year-old superstar, clearly en route to being the best on the planet at the time, right? He was there from age 26 to age 30. Chris Bosh is the same age as him, 26 to 30 years of age. He was, even though Chris Bosh stayed a couple of years longer than LeBron. And D Wade was 29, okay, averaging 25 a game. That first year, people were saying they were like the Beatles, man. Everybody. I mean, it was like it was every they were followed everywhere. I mean, they were just suffocated. I mean, it was crazy. All right. And LeBron James was just learning about winning. It's like when he went into that meeting and Pat Riley and them showed up to woo him to South Beach, even though him, Chris Bosh, and D. Wade had already made the decision because Melo signed a 5-year deal with Denver a few years earlier that didn't give him an out in that third year. I always told you it was supposed to be Melo in Miami as a member of the Big Three, not Bosh, all right? But Melo messed that up, and that's a different story for another day. So it was Bosh, D. Wade, and LeBron. And when you look at the pressure, when you look at the attention, when you look at the pariah that LeBron had become and how D. Wade had to sit next to him for every single press conference to be protective of him like that big brother, and for them to go out there and to win 58 games and go all the way to the finals and knock off Boston in order to do it and all of this other stuff. I mean, it was special. And so when you look at it from this perspective, we can't even say that this Lakers squad is the best Big Three. We knew they were the best. The Miami Heat, when LeBron first arrived there, were considered the best. And they were the Goliaths that everybody was trying to knock off. The Lakers, we can't even say that definitively right now because LeBron is going on 37. AD, we got to hope and pray that he stays healthy. And even though Russell Westbrook is a walking triple-double, the adjustments that they're going to have to make in terms of playing with one another, which I'm very confident they'll be able to do because Russell Westbrook was telling the truth. They are friends. You know, I mean, listen, LeBron has had him over at the crib and vice versa. They are boys. They do get along. You know, he is friends with them. That's legit. And I do think that they will do what it takes to work. Please don't get me wrong. But at this moment, we can't definitively say they the Big Three with KD, Harden, and Kyrie in Brooklyn. And to me, that's the biggest difference.
Let me tell you something.
But it is LeBron's best Big Three. I think they got to prove it. They already did it, Miami.
Okay, wait. 3 things. If KD, Harden, and Kyrie were around back then, LeBron wouldn't have had the best 3 back then. They're just around nowadays. That's not the Lakers' fault that the Brooklyn Nets exist. If KD, Harden, and Kyrie were...
No, KD had Westbrook and James Harden.
Yeah, but they were babies. Come on,
that's what I'm saying.
They were babies.
But that's what I'm saying. I know that. That's what I'm saying. You said back then.
They're not babies anymore.
I'm saying they were babies. I'm saying they were babies.
What I'm saying is if the Nets existed as they do now back then you would still say the Nets got the better Big Three. Okay,
absolutely right.
So that's not LeBron's fault that he has the second best Big Three today. There's an even better Big Three that didn't used to exist. Let me say this about 2 things you're right about. Number 1, this Lakers Big Three has to prove it. They haven't done that yet. I should say they could be the best Big Three. They got to go out and prove it. They got to stay healthy, etc.
I can give you that.
And I'll give you one more point.
I can give you that.
And I'm not going to talk about your experiences in Miami. I'm going to stay with basketball reasons. Let's stay with basketball. I know. Or even cultural impact, because the Heatles were something different. I agree. It was special, right? I'll say this. The point you make that is true is that LeBron James was in his physical prime back then. That is not the case now. He was playing both ends of the floor as well as better than he'd ever played it, really, by year 2 in Miami, right? And he's diminished now. Because when I hear the best Big Three LeBron has ever played with, I'm really thinking about his teammates. Dwayne Wade was only 29, but I think you would agree he wasn't quite what he'd been a couple of years before. And Bosh is a great player.
First year. Your first year was when he averaged 25.
They didn't win
when
the
he averaged 25 and he had to lead and he had to step back year 2 because he knew the team would be better with LeBron. But year 1 in Miami.
You think so? You know, when LeBron got there, I thought of Wade as a top 3-4 player in the league the year before LeBron got there, along with Kobe, Duncan, and LeBron.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that when he got there, he stepped back just a touch. He stepped back just a little for LeBron because LeBron had a rod, but he still averaged 25 and a half.
It could be that I'm being.
I felt I was number 1, but I mean, it's just the work I gotta put in. I gotta keep the chip on my shoulder from where I'm from. My family installed it into me, so I'm just keeping it better every day.
All right, obviously a lot of great players from this draft. Stephen A., who do you think is going to be the better pro, Cade or Jalen?
Me personally, I think Jalen. That's not to throw any shade on Cade Cunningham. I like what I see. He's a smooth brother, smooth ball player, got a nice stroke. No doubt about it. I think he's got a lot of promise, and I think Detroit, as the late great Stuart Scott used to call Detroit, Detroit. I think they're in for a treat with him. I have no issue with it. But I think that Jalen Green is one of them brothers that, I look for two things, guys. Actually, three things. Obviously, I'm looking, for, your size and what have you, your athleticism. I'm looking for whether or not you have a perimeter shot, because in today's game, that truly does matter. The other thing that I'm looking for is a want it, a go get it mentality, which is why, Max, I want to take a moment to give you credit for what you said about that cat out of Baylor, Devion Mitchell. This brother's work ethic, you got coaches raving about him. I read an article where he pulled a hamstring, and come to find out, Bobby Jackson, who's coaching the G League, Sacramento and all of that, and working with those guys over the summer, used to start for Sacramento. I covered him when I was covering, you remember when the Lakers were playing the Sacramento Kings, in 2000 and stuff like that. He was a member of that team with Bibby and Stojakovic and Vlade Divac and C. Webb and those guys. And I love Bobby Jackson. And I was reading a story about how Devion, had stretched his hamstring or did whatever. And come to find out, Max, the reason why is because he had worked out twice before the workouts were scheduled. So he came in early in the morning, got a workout, then went and get a little rest, got in another workout before practice. And they say these are the things that he does religiously. And they're like, you got to calm down, bro. It's long. See, he wants it that bad. I look at Jalen Green when he gets on the court and compete. What I see in Cunningham is a smooth operator that just knows how to play the game and is going to know how to be effective and productive and is going to be a plus for the Detroit Pistons. I see a guy in Jalen Green that seems to have a little something extra that you don't teach. Not just talent-wise, but he wants it bad. And he doesn't want to just be good and to win. He wants to be the reason you win. He wants to be a star. We hear a lot of people say that, but we don't see it when we're watching them. I see that when I watch Jalen Green, and that's what I'm thinking about.
I want to comment quickly on two things you said, then I want to make my point about Cade Cunningham. Number one, Stuart Scott. When you bring up his name, boy, the world was much better when Stu Scott was in it. I miss that dude. He was a great guy and obviously a huge talent. Yeah. Davion Mitchell. There's a video circulating on social media from Kobe. I think I saw it on Instagram or something, where Kobe's talking about he would wake up at 3 a.m. to work out at 4, and then work out 4 to 6, and he'd take you through the schedule of his day. And he said, now, if you're not doing that, and I am, after 5-6 years, you can never catch up. Yeah. I've done it too much. You can't catch up. That's what Muhammad Ali used to say. Get up and start running at 5 a.m. thinking Joe Frazier's up at 6. I'm getting up at 5, right? That's what it takes. Davion Mitchell obviously has that kind of mentality. That's why he's 6'1", 6'2", and he was killing the game in college. He's going to be killing it in the pros. Cade Cunningham, there's a reason he was drafted first, even against a high flyer, Stephen A. And the reason he was drafted first, even over Jalen, is that the world has changed. The basketball world has changed. What we're looking for as the centerpiece to a championship team, the thing that gets you there quicker than anything else, has changed. It used to be, way back in the day, the big center. No one would trade a center for anything that wasn't a center if the center was great, right? I mean, everyone was looking for it. Coming out of the era when I was a kid, it had already passed, but Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, and then I was in there as a kid, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as I know you were, Stephen A., and they drafted Patrick Ewing and David Robinson. You must have a big. Then Michael Jordan came along. I mean, there was Bird and Magic, of course, but they were sort of unicorns, 6'9", point forward guards. What were they? Jordan came along, and it was like, oh, excuse me. The two-way wing who can score 30 points a game, you want that, Kobe Bryant. Mm-hmm. And guys who could make you believe they could do that, that was the most sought-after thing. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, guys like that. Then LeBron came along. And then since then, we've seen Luka and what James Harden has evolved into and what we wish Ben Simmons could be if he could shoot. And we're like, oh, excuse me. The athletic guy with the size of a wing plus who can run your offense, who can also do all the things offensively that a point guard can do, the hybrid of Magic and Michael. And if he can shoot too, oh my God, that's what everyone's looking for nowadays. I think this draft was instructive that way because there's been a sea change. Usually a guy like Jalen, you're looking for that. Ooh, that guy's there. He's going first. But not if there's another guy who's 6'8" and can handle and can score and can set up your offense like LeBron or Luka or one of those dudes. That guy now goes number one.
Well, there's a shot, Max, we can both be right. There's a shot that we can both be right about what we're saying about both of them because neither of us are throwing shade on either of them. We love what we're seeing from both of them. What I would tell you is watch out for this, what you should really appreciate by Jalen Green. He's in Houston. Who was in Houston wreaking havoc for years?
James Harden.
That would be James Harden. He seems to know that. And as a result is hell-bent on and determined to inch towards that. Okay, he's gone. It's a new era, and I want it. And what I'm saying is when you're evaluating talent, yeah, I can look at your skill set. That's first and foremost. I got to look at your athleticism. I got to wonder about your durability. All of your mindset, though, is a huge, huge deal. How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Jalen Green seems to be that kind of guy, and that's what I'm noticing.
Absolutely. He didn't even go to college. I want to see that Kobe video, Max. You got to send that to me. Let's talk some
early on, but he went on to have a Hall of Fame career, 5 MVPs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what he's trying to do is limit the expectations because during the whole draft process, we all are talking about Zach Wilson and comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. He's got an electric arm. He can throw the football from all different angles, off platform, all the jargon we heard during that time. So the expectations in New York are for him to come in and maybe not win, but he's got to show you the talent level that we've seen and that we saw early on from the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, some of the recent young quarterbacks. So I think this is more an attempt by Saleh to say, okay, he's going to be good. Okay, we know the talent is there. He's going to be really good, maybe even great one day, but let's temper the expectations early on. You'll see flashes of the talent, but at some point, he's going to do what all rookies have done, even the greatest maybe of all time in Peyton Manning, who struggled mightily as a rookie. So I like what he's doing. Limit the expectations, undersell, overproduce. That's what all these coaches should do for their young quarterbacks.
I think it's totally fair. I think the comparison is fair, and I'll tell you why. Now we know Peyton Manning's one of the greatest who ever played any sport, right? But at the time, he was just another first-round draft pick. Number 1 overall, and was going to be him or Ryan Leaf. But I got news for you. If Peyton came out in the same draft as Trevor Lawrence, he'd have gone second, just like Zach Wilson went second. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is going to be better than Peyton Manning. I'm talking about the hype around these guys coming out.
Where the hell did you get that from?
Trevor Lawrence is the most hyped quarterback in terms of checking every single box of my lifetime. I would say
the only remember what Peyton Manning was like.
Then you must be 23 years old. Then you must be 22, 23 years old.
I do remember Peyton Manning. I remember
Peyton Manning and that hype?
Of course Peyton Manning was hyped. So was Andrew Luck. I don't think anyone came out as a better quarterback prospect than Trevor Lawrence. But I don't want to get into a side argument about that. The point is, he was drafted very, very high, right? Wow. Zach Wilson, for a reason. If Trevor Lawrence didn't exist, he'd have gone first overall, it looks like. Okay. Who has he been compared to? By people on this network. David Pollack, Ryan Clark. By the way, Jim Mora. A lot of people compared Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. Even at first, if they're like, what, you're making that comparison? They went and watched, film and said, oh, yeah, I can see it. Now, Mina Kimes was on this show months and months ago saying, because I did the same thing. I YouTubed it. Oh, my God, maybe he should go before Justin Fields. This kid's great. And Mina pointed out, Booger, that, look, he's playing with a great offensive line against defenders, not like he's going to see in the NFL, and these are some of his growing pains. But if we're just saying based on talent, expectations, draft position, etc., is it fair to make that comparison? It is fair.
I believe it's fair as well because, like Booger said, I wasn't taking it in a literal sense. What he's saying is that if one of the greatest, if not the greatest, you call Peyton Manning the greatest regular season quarterback, Max, in NFL history. Okay, we all know that he was worthy of his Hall of Fame induction. He's one of the greatest ever. So if one of the greatest ever, who was so brilliant that offensive coordinators didn't even call the plays, they left it up to him pretty much his entire career. When you're that great, but in your first year in the National Football League, you had 26 touchdowns and threw 28 interceptions, okay? The fact of the matter is that what Salah was saying is that if somebody like that is going to make those mistakes, we should expect that from any rookie. That's all he was saying. That's where the comparisons start and stop. In other words, don't expect this guy to come out looking like, a polished individual. He's going to have some rough edges. He's going to have some tough times, and that's just the way that it's going to go. Me personally, the only thing that I would say to Salah is that if you feel high enough for him, if you feel that high for him, and one would argue that you do since he was picked number 2 overall, even though we all remember Ryan Leaf was also picked number 2 overall, so let's not forget that. All right, Jamarcus Russell was once picked number 1 overall. Let's not forget that. In the end, what it comes down to is the franchise and the culture and the personnel that you surround that player with. And I'm looking at this Jets roster, and let me just give you some names. Jamison Crowder from Washington, we know about him. Denzel Mims, we'll learn about him. Corey Davis came over from Tennessee. We know a little bit about him. Keelan Cole comes over from Jacksonville. We know a little bit about him. Their running back, forgive me if I don't pronounce the name correctly. I'm just reading. I don't know. I apologize if I don't pronounce it correctly. Lamical Perrin. And then, of course, Tevin Coleman. All I'm trying to say to you is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Booger, any of those names move you? Any of those names jump out at you and makes you say, Buffalo, Miami, New England, y'all better watch out. Y'all better watch out now. Is there any name that I threw out there that makes you say, they're going to make Zach Wilson look really, really good? The answer would be no. And all I'm trying to say is we don't know whether that's true or not. Give the guys a chance. Let them show what they got. But in the end, when I think about a quarterback, I think about the system and I think about the personnel that you're playing with. Because especially when you're a rookie, that's going to have a hell of a lot to do with your success or lack thereof.
Stephen, I think you make a good point about the players around him. As far as the system is concerned, we talked about the system in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan being the best system for a young quarterback to come into. And we said Trey Lance is in a really good position. Well, let's not forget that Mike LaFleur is coming over and he's the offensive coordinator for the Jets. So if the 49ers system is the best, then the guy that's bringing the 49ers system to the Jets has to have a really good system also. So I think Zach Wilson is going to be in really good shape. The talent is not great, but I do think, unlike some of the other rookie quarterbacks in this league, present and past, he's going to be in a really good position to succeed because they're going to take advantage of what he does well, which is use his athleticism, get him in those off-platform situations where he can use that Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers-like arm. So I do think he's not going to struggle as much as Peyton Manning did his rookie year. But come on, man, it's the National Football League. All rookies are going to struggle, but he won't do it as much as some of those guys.
Who doesn't struggle? You know who doesn't struggle? The rookies who don't play. Patrick Mahomes didn't struggle as a rookie because he didn't play. And then his second year, he took the world by storm. Here's the thing about Zach Wilson and the way the Jets are doing it. I don't care what he does this year. This year's not what it's about. The Jets went about this exactly right. And when they drafted Vera Tucker, Boog, and Stephen A., I was like, oh, that is really smart. They have Becton. They have like a great young left tackle. They put a guy who's like can't miss at left guard. And now the left side of that line is set with a young, dynamic quarterback. They're not ready to do anything in the AFC East this year. They're going to be in last place by a whole lot. But going forward, if you have a quarterback and an O-line, you're in business, and I think they do.
You need stop it. Stop it. Damn it, you were born in the Bronx. You were born in the Bronx. You live in New York City at least half the time now. You know New York, okay? being in the New York market's a little bit different. You can sit up there and say, well, he's not going to do anything this year, and I get that part from a literal sense. But don't act like doing nothing in New York in year one just because you're a rookie and you got a new head coach, and it doesn't matter in the New York market. Because that has crushed.
Addressing that. He's already managing that.
Wait. I'm addressing it. I'm saying it's crushed a lot of souls. You've seen it, Max. You've witnessed it. Booger, you've witnessed it. There are dudes, because we're talking about the mental. I get tired of everybody just looking at people's physical ability. There are people who shrink mentally because of the environment.
But we don't know that until we see it. We can't assume that one way or another. We got to see it. That's
a reason to be concerned if you're sticking up the joint.
It's going to be rough sledding as a rookie for Zach Wilson. We'll see how he reacts to the New York media.
I'll leave you with this. I shared this yesterday. It's unbelievable. Since 2000, the Jets have used 7 first or second round picks on a quarterback.
Manning. It's not the amount of media attention I'm talking about, or mainstream media attention. I'm talking about as a prospect. Trevor Lawrence is considered a perfect prospect. He does have, including mobility, right? Like stuff that even Peyton didn't have. Size, pedigree. He's won a national championship. And he did it in a blowout, right, as a young player. The year after Deshaun Watson, by the skin of his teeth, in a blowout. Was with surgical precision, has done things like thrown interceptions the next year and then chased down guys in the open field and tackled them. He is a football player with size, speed, and arm, intelligence, pedigree, championship, the whole thing. Let's put it this way. Everyone agrees there hasn't been a prospect like this on paper since at least Andrew Luck. You got to go back like a decade. There's more pressure on Trevor Lawrence.
Well, Max, I'm going to disagree. I think there's more pressure on Urban Meyer. If you think about, number one, the college coach coming to the NFL, you think about a guy that's been out of the profession for a few years. And on top of that, when he gets back in, he's trying to do things from an unconventional standpoint. He's already made some mistakes, some would say. If you look at the hiring of the strength coach, Chris Doyle, who ultimately had to turn around and that guy had to resign, the controversial signing of Tim Tebow. So he's trying to do things differently than the norm. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come in and you upset the apple cart, especially when you are a very successful coach on a collegiate level, there's a lot of pressure on you because people want to know, very similar to Nick Saban, can you get it done at the professional level? Nick Saban couldn't get it done. Nick Saban went back to college and he's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest college coach of all time. So Urban Meyer is trying to do something that even the great Nick Saban could not do, which is succeed on the professional level. To me, if that's not pressure, then what is? On top of that, he's coming to an organization that got to the precipice of going to the Super Bowl, less than 5 or 6 years ago when they lost the game in the AFC Championship game in New England, and it's been downhill since then. So they've seen from a talent standpoint what it takes. They tore it back down under his guidance, and now they're trying to build it back up, and he handpicked his quarterback. So if you look at Urban Meyer, the greatest college coach of all time, some would say, based on his record, if you look at what he did, he came to the National Football League, he handpicked his quarterback, he's doing things from an unconventional standpoint. If that doesn't say pressure to me, Max Kellerman, then what does it say? He's under the most pressure, way more than Trevor Lawrence, especially if we're saying that the rookie quarterbacks are going to struggle anyway, like we talked about in the previous segment with Zach Wilson. So Trevor Lawrence isn't under any pressure right now. It's all on Urban Meyer's shoulders.
Booger McFarland, for the first time that you've been on the show, I'm actually going to accuse you of being a bit unfair. I really think that you're actually unfair in what you just said. And let me explain why that is. Number one, let's understand something.
Please do.
Let's understand something here. Long term, when you look at Urban Meyer, he may be the one under the most pressure. Not immediately. The immediate pressure is on Trevor Lawrence.